Hey guys, welcome back. We are I don't even know, 6, 7 podcasts in now. We're getting pretty seasoned at this.
We are.
I don't know how good that makes us, but at least we're getting used to it.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Getting Mr. Peter on camera in the first place was quite the accomplishment. So happy we're pretty deep into this now. We're getting some pretty good feedback, so I really appreciate all that. Please continue to do that so we kind of know what to focus on, what y'all really want to hear from us, because we want this to be of much value as possible to y'all. This is what this is about. So please give us feedback. Anything that we can get is fantastic.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Mr. Peter?
There's so many topics to cover,
Yeah.
and they're changing all the time. The
Yep.
market changes all the time. Tax laws change all the time.
Yep.
Life circumstances change all the time. So things affect people in different ways. So we're happy to try to discuss each of those.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk a little bit about very simple concepts, like he said, taxation stuff. But this one,
taxes affect everybody.
Taxes affect everybody. Yeah, you don't want to end up in jail. But today we're just going to talk about retirement accounts. Just very, very simple, basic stuff, as if we were talking to someone who's very new to this, and explaining the differences between, the different kinds of accounts, right? 401ks, 403bs, TSPs, IRAs, pensions, all those kind of different things that come into play, kind of how taxation affects those different things, because there's also the variations of each one of those accounts, so it gets really... for someone who doesn't do this every day,
yeah.
I would think that gets really confusing in how that can affect everything, right?
For sure.
So yeah, I think the first thing that we always get asked is, I always see Roth options. I always see traditional options. What does that even mean? Who is Roth? Who's that?
Yeah.
So
I believe he was a senator.
Okay. Well, I thought it was an acronym, to be honest.
No, it's all right. Okay. It's a guy's name.
Okay. Roth versus traditional. Very, very simple concept. We'll start there, but that can affect pretty much any type of retirement account, right? There's a traditional 401k, there's a traditional IRA, there's a Roth 401k, there's a Roth IRA. And all that really affects is when the taxes come out of the money.
Right.
Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So traditional, of course, is pre-tax money. So as you put money into your IRA and deduct it, or you put into your 401k and it goes in before you pay taxes, either way, the Roth is after tax. So you pay the tax, the money goes into the account, and then starts accruing tax-free and comes out tax-free if you follow the proper guidelines. In the traditional, it's going to come out taxable.
Yep.
In the future when you take it out, assuming you leave these things alone to 59.5, and you don't have a 10% penalty, especially on the traditional side.
Yeah, and that's where people get into trouble, is they will cash it out, and then there's taxes and penalties and all that kind of stuff that comes with that, right? Some people don't even know that, and they just cash it out, and then it's like, oh, too late now.
That's right.
But, I think it's a really good thing that employers have started to do pretty much, automatic deductions off of their paychecks in order to get that done, because some people, I don't think, would do that if that wasn't automated through their employer.
Yeah, I had a little bit of an issue when I first heard that as soon as you enroll in your 401k or start with your employer, they're going to just automatically start taking deductions from your paycheck and putting it into your 401k. And I was kind of like, yeah, maybe that's a little bit too much Big Brother stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at it that way. But now as we're into it a little bit more, a lot of people just don't get into them because they just don't get around to them.
Or don't know enough about
or
them
don't know
to even
enough
start.
or take the time. So they always have the option to opt out. But typically, once you get into those kind of things, you don't even miss the money.
Yeah.
And then you have that opportunity for it to start accruing for your future.
Yep.
And then you say, hey, this wasn't that big a deal, so maybe I'll put in more.
Yep.
And it gets you into that employer match thing right away too.
Yeah, and that's the sweet spot too, right? Because the people who don't enroll, right, they're missing out on that free money. Basically, if the employer matches 3%, which what I would say is pretty standard, right? 3%. I've seen more. But that's free money that you're leaving on the table if you're not enrolled in that. But also, I think a big thing that people miss and don't think about, especially for the business owners and the 1099 people, stuff like that, is a lot of these accounts are creditor protected, right? And what that means is if a lawsuit comes after you, if someone comes after you for whatever, right, a lawsuit, it's very, very hard to access that money for an attorney. So for people that are in higher risk industries, a little bit more liability, that really becomes a value later on.
Let's go back to the taxation just a minute. And you know, we all talk about investment diversification. Tax diversification is something to be considered as well. So you don't know, we don't know, nobody knows what the tax code's going to be in the future.
Yep.
Just like you don't know what your investment returns are necessarily going to be in the future. What we do know is we're going to pay taxes, maybe more and more taxes over time. So depending on your age, I think diversifying into the 3 different buckets with regard to your investing in the tax treatment of those buckets is ideal. So you have the option in your 401ks or your IRAs to do pre-tax contributions and Roth contributions. A lot of people say, well, I'm in my highest earning years right now, so why would I do a Roth contribution and defer that tax into retirement when I'm in potentially a lower tax bracket? Potentially is a big word. It's quite possible. You don't know, right? So I think a good idea is to, especially if you're younger, and before you're really into those higher tax brackets, to defer as much as possible into the Roth side and get that tax-free growth going, and you have multiple years for that compounding to occur. Then you get into retirement years, and you've got all this tax-free income.
Yep.
That's really a tough one to beat. Pre-tax, there's your diversification. So now you're deferring from your highest potential bracket now into a lower bracket in the future. And then after tax would be like a brokerage account that isn't in your retirement plan. You can use it at any time. You don't have to wait till you're 59 and a half.
Yep.
And you get mostly potentially tax treatment on the capital gains side versus your regular income tax side. Or if you use things like tax-free municipal bond funds, you have tax-free income for those kinds of things. And that way you have your diversification. So once you get into retirement, then you can go to the different buckets depending on where you're at and pick your income stream from any or all of those buckets and try to control that distribution and the tax treatment on that distribution. Yeah.
And that's where I think some people not get into trouble, but find some difficulty is they save a lot of money into their retirement accounts when they're younger, and they get a good balance on there. But then when it comes time to buy a house or something like that, all their money's in those retirement accounts when maybe it would have been better if they could put that down payment on that house or that business or whatever, right? So that stuff comes into play too. Of course, there's always ways around that.
Yeah, and there are different times when you can get at those buckets, and that's getting into a bit of the minutia of the tax treatment of each one of those buckets, and that's why it's so important, of course, that you have a good CPA accounting piece of your advisory team to be able to coordinate with your financial advisor and understand how to best put these things together. So, with all that having been said, make sure on the accounting side that you have a good CPA on your team and that they coordinate with your financial advisor and vice versa.
Yeah. It's always good to have a handsome financial advisor in your back pocket to give you all this, right, Dad?
Yes, it's a good idea to have an attractive financial advisor on your side.
That's a weird way to put it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. I don't want to overload y'all with too much info. Again, going back, I think I said this in another video, but the hard part I have with the internet is there's so much financial information out there that it's like overwhelming how much there is. So some people just give up. So I want to keep these things semi-simple enough to just get you started, and then have those conversations with people like us to really get you into the minutia, right? Using your word there. But yeah, I think
that's not a word your generation uses anymore.
I don't know. Minutia? Sounds like Roth. Sounds like somebody out there. Anyways, but thanks, guys. I think this is another great video.
It was.
I appreciate it. Please give us y'all's feedback, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And thanks, guys.
Thank you.